Good evening and welcome to the show. I am John Biggs and I will be your host for this show. And the goal really is to talk about current events, and unfortunately, that is also known as politics. There is so very little you can do in the world today: buy a loaf of bread, go out to dinner, whatever, where politics don't really come into play. My original idea for this show was to call it Cocktails for Two. So I put these two out here, and these are just out of the closet. And here's a blue one, and here's a red one. And it used to be that, okay, you can put cocktails, wine, whatever you want in there, but now that's the blue one, that's the red one. And we don't really, well, shouldn't say we, but there's lots of animosity there. So anyway, I am a banker. I ran a pretty good sized community bank for many years. I'm also a CPA. So my goal of this show is really two things. First, to try and determine what is factual in the world today. And honestly, it is so hard to figure that out. I consider myself not an uneducated person, but in today's world, that is a very difficult thing to figure out. What is truth? What is based on political rhetoric? So that's really one of my goals. Second is to try to simplify complicated issues, and there's lots of complicated issues out there. So I sort of think with my background, I have the ability to give you this information, and I just sort of want to do it. So we'll see. We'll go from there. So in this episode, the first episode, is really about our Constitution and democracy. And as I look at it, our Constitution and our democracy is really based on one federal premise, which is separation of powers. That is really the whole deal. So if you look at that, and this is probably a high school civics course, but that's going to be the executive branch, which is the president, all his cabinet members, all the agencies underneath him, the legislative branch, which is going to be Congress, the House and the Senate, and the judiciary, which is going to be our court system, federal, state, Supreme Court. So I would like to, I don't know if anybody has ever looked at the Federalist Papers, but they are really extremely important. And I think, I'll get into this a little bit more, but I think you really have to look at intent. I've always believed that in legal documents. Anytime you sort of get into sort of a beef, I know you can get attorneys on both sides if you look at just what the written letter of the law is, but I like to look at intent. What was the intent? So I am going to read number 51, Madison, and this is about, again, the separation of powers. To what expedient, then, shall we finally report for maintaining in practice the necessary partition of power among the several departments as laid down in the Constitution, in order to lay a due foundation for that separate and distinct exercise of the different powers of government, again, those three powers, which to a certain extent is admitted by all hands when this was written, to be essential to the preservation of liberty. I think that is the essential piece of this. It is evident that each department should have a will of its own, and consequently should be constituted that the members of each should have as little agency as possible in the appointment of the members of the others. So how more clear could that be to have separation of powers? I just could not understand that. And remember that our Constitution was written after King George III persecuted the colonies. I think you can probably remember no taxation without representation. So our leaders in the beginning were very careful about another individual being able to take over the company like King George did. So that's that. I'll go on to some of the current laws, the current adoption of old laws that I just think are inappropriate. So the first one I would say is the Alien Enemies Act. And if you look at what Trump and the administration is mostly doing, is using these very old, antiquated acts, and again, getting back into intent versus the actual language. Because if you go back, you'll really find that sometimes it's not written that accurately or that precise. So that gives people on both sides of the issue an opportunity to get in there and say, well, that's not really what it means. But here's a perfect example. And this is what Trump is using primarily to execute his mandate, as he deems his mandate, on immigration. So this act was constituted in 1798, so quite a while ago. It's only been used 3 times: War of 1812, World War I, and World War II. And if you read this, and I'll give you some excerpts of it, but really what it's about is if you have a bunch of people come into the country and you have another country that's attacking you, you can get rid of them without due process, without, quote, habeas corpus. So if you look at this, you can read it. An invasion or predatory incursion. Well, I don't think any of the immigrants constitute an invasion or predatory incursion by any foreign nation or government. No, they just came to the United States because they thought it was a better place to live. That we can remove them. So in the most part, in my mind, it was used for World War II and the Japanese internment camps. But guess what's the difference? Japan attacked us. They attacked us, and we didn't know if the Japanese Americans were on the Japanese side or the American side, so we said, you have to go into an internment camp. But I think Article 22 of this, to me, is really the most interesting. If you're trying to remove these people under this act, and I would say none of the people we're removing qualify under this act, but let's say, okay, they're not charged with any actual hostility. Okay, is a moving violation an actual hostility? I would think not. Or other crime against the public safety. I guess you could say anything they do. Then, unless there is a treaty in force between the United States and the hostile nation, well, there is no hostile nation. So there is no treaty. This is the part that gets me. The president may ascertain and declare a reasonable time that is consistent with public safety and according to the dictates of, and here get this, humanity and national hospitality. Well, I think if we're going to go forward with this country, we have no humanity and we certainly have no national hospitality. So what do we have? In my mind, so there's the Insurrection Act, which Trump is using to put military personnel enforcement. That's another emergency act. We have the International Emergency Economics Powers Act. That's the emergency tariff acts he's using to use tariffs. So what do we have? In my mind, we really have an executive trying to take over legislative and judiciary. I will go on to the next thing, and a lot of people have worried that maybe we might get there, and I sort of think we're already there, and that is fascism. And you can look at this any way you want to look at it, but I don't see how you can't conclude that we're becoming a fascist country. So let's start with this. Understand, Donald Trump only won the election by 1.5%. That is not much. So that's the popular vote, not the electoral vote. He did win the electoral vote by quite a while. But when his cabinet people say it was a landslide election and this is what America wants, it's just not true. So fascism. Fascism is autocracy. Okay, I think we got that. Militarism, got that. Suppression of opposition and nationalism. We got all of that. So if you look at MAGA, Make America Great Again, my fear is it creates divisiveness, it creates conflict, and it creates anger. What in my mind it says, we as Americans, and I hate to use United States of America because we're not very united under this president anymore, but it's all about self. It's all about America, and we're better than anybody else. It makes us look selfish. We're better than anybody else, and we're not. Yes, we're bigger, and we can do other things, but it makes it look like we don't care about anyone else. We only care about ourselves. The other thing about fascism is about suppressing dissent, and the list here goes on and on. And so it's the use of the federal purse and the power of the federal government to suppress dissent. So what do you got? You got the law firms. Okay, if you're a law firm that's representing someone against the federal government, you're going to be sanctioned and you're not going to be allowed to go into federal buildings. You're going to have to pay a big penalty. Universities. Okay, what are universities for? They're for higher learning, and they're about questioning things, questioning morals. And okay, what does Trump want? He wants to turn them into conservative venues that only teach MAGA ideas? I don't think so. You look at the Fed, what he's done to Jay Powell, and my prediction, we'll get into this in the next session, but tariffs are absolutely going to create inflation. Look what he's doing to the judges. Judges are being chastised if they have any kind of opinion against the administration. A bigger thing, pardons. That's a huge way to suppress the law of judiciary, which is anytime you make a rule that I don't like, I'm going to pardon them. Well, we've never had that before. Interesting. Look at what's going on in business. Tariffs, they're haphazard and filled with pork. And what I mean by pork is they're all up to Donald Trump's whims. And if someone says, oh, Donald, you're great, some other country, they get a great deal. Someone else doesn't, I guess not. That's called pork. Paramount Skydance with the FCC, he's controlling that approval. The DC takeover that just happened. Hey, let's look at this. The Redskins Stadium and the new name, and he's not going to approve the stadium unless they change their name. The Smithsonian that he's taking over now. The Kennedy Center. The list goes on and on. So I think what I look at the end of all this is what we're going to deal with as a country of an erosion of trust. And trust is so important. Trust that we will pay our debts. Trust that we are a good country and that we are democratic. And if we lose that trust, look at the financial markets. They're really driven by trust. Yeah, there's a lot of greed, but there is a lot of trust too that someone else is not going to take advantage of you. So trust is important, and we are losing that. So I will stop there with this episode tonight. And the next episode, I've worked really hard on our new budget. I will go through the budget, tax policy, our deficit spending, and Treasury securities. So I'll leave you here with this tonight, which is Carpe Diem. You can seize the day. Vote. That's your opportunity to vote. But vote with knowledge and vote with intelligence. All right, thank you. We'll see you next time.